Am I the a-hole for agreeing to walk my sister down the aisle? When I was 14, my mother died giving birth to my now 20-year-old sister, Elise. My father blamed Elle and started excessively drinking. At 14, I basically became the main caretaker of my 3 siblings. My aunt and a few family friends were able to help out, but the most they could do was bring us groceries and handle inheritance. For the next 4 years, I paid a babysitter for when I was at school and took care of my siblings for the rest of the day. When I graduated high school, I decided against college and immediately took up a part-time job. My dad was almost never in the picture. He fell into a heavy depression and almost died of overdose 3 times. I knew he wanted to be involved. I tried to help him as much as I could, but it hurts to watch. When Elise was around a year old, she started learning to talk and started non-stop calling me Dada, and it broke my heart in so many ways. I tried to get her to stop at first, but eventually I stopped. I reasoned that if she saw me as her dad, then I was doing something right. When I was 19, my dad overheard me helping Elise with her reading and she called me her dad. He blew up in both of us. That I was trying to take his place and she doesn't deserve to be a part of this family after she killed her mom. I decided right then and there that I was done trying with him, and used my inheritance and my aunt's help to move me and my siblings out into a small apartment. It was so sudden, I guess it snapped him into reality. It's been over a decade since then and he's now gotten sober. A few years ago, he decided he wanted to form a bond with Elise. She was hesitant, but agreed. Elise is now engaged and is in the middle of planning her wedding. We've always been very close, so I knew I'd at least give a speech. But when she approached me to ask if I'd be the one to walk her down the aisle, I was overjoyed. I was at a planning dinner last night when I joked that I need a nicer suit now that I'd be on the aisle. Everyone laughed, but my dad just looked confused. He asked what I meant. When Elise cut in and explained that she wanted me to walk her down the aisle, since it felt right because I always walked her to school every day her entire life. Aunt and my other siblings thought it was sweet. But my dad and grandma pulled me aside later to tell me that they understood where Elise was coming from, and they didn't blame her. But I should have rejected the offer because it's traditionally a fatherly role, and I know how hard my dad has been working to be a good father to Elise. I told them I'd think about it. A few days have passed, and my grandma and some family friends have called me every day telling me I'd be the a-hole to take this away from my dad. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Tell your dad and grandma that, traditionally, a man accepts responsibility for their children and doesn't blame them for things out of their control. Traditionally, men don't become alcoholics and force children to become parents. Tell them that, traditionally, it falls on the person whom the bride wants. I forgot to add Opie, you are an amazing person, and you should definitely walk down your daughter on her special day. Family isn't just biological. It's who you choose. Thus, print this out and hand it to them. Not stay home. He never was a father to her. They already explained themselves. It's a fatherly role, which she did for her entire life while he was a drunk loser hating her. Not stay home. Where the heck was grandma and these family friends when dad was living at the bottom of the bottle while you raised your sister? It is your sister's day and her decision. She chose you and you should honor her wishes. It's not on you to help whitewash your father's horrible parenting or his emotional mistreatment after your mom died. Exactly. Dad shouldn't get that honor when he blamed an innocent child for something that wasn't her fault. Opie pretty much was the parent from the get-go. Not the least that his father lost his wife, but Opie lost his mother at 14. He stepped the heck up when his father couldn't. He deserves to walk his sister down the aisle, and she deserves to have him walk her. Not stay home. Blaming a child for the death of their mother in childbirth is seriously abusive. The people with their ridiculous opinion that your dad is owed a walk down the aisle took no action to the point where a 19-year-old had to set up a household to keep his siblings safe. That they are getting involved now to protect the interest of the abuser shows they are terrible people. A few years ago, your father decided he wanted to form a bond with your sister? No, that's your call at this point. He doesn't get to just decide he is ready. He was awful her entire childhood, and now his wants are irrelevant. He does not get to have any expectation beyond what your sister is willing to allow. He should be down on his knees thanking her for any chance she is willing to give him. In fact, if you allow a selfish, entitled man to walk your sister down the aisle to be given priority over what your sister wants, you would be the a-hole. Your father may not be drinking, but he is still prioritizing his needs over those of your sister without any concern about her emotional well-being. Her wedding should be a day of joy for her. Her focus should be on starting a new life with someone that she loves, and who loves and respects her. She should not be dreading walking down the aisle on the arm of someone who makes her feel like an unwelcome murderer for years, instead of sharing the moment with someone who loved and supported her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted to my niece saying her dream job was to be a trophy wife like me? My niece is 17, so she started thinking about her career/university. Yesterday, the family was asking her if she had decided what she wanted to do with her life. She told them her dream job was the same job as my job. Everyone assumed she meant she wanted to work in marketing because that's what I'm currently doing. My niece said that's not what she wants to do, and she wanted to be a trophy wife. Admittedly, this is a sore spot for me, because a lot of my extended family went from treating me like someone who had worked hard to get to where I currently am, to a glorified trophy wife the second I got married. My parents did call her out for what she said, but my niece said her dad said that's what I was. I got annoyed, and I ended up calling my brother-in-law a prick and telling my niece I didn't think it was a realistic dream for her. My sister is upset with me for what I said to my niece and claims that her husband was only joking. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Let's face it, your sister is upset because she and her husband got caught bad-mouthing you and are covering their embarrassment by getting mad at you. What they should be doing is apologizing to you for talking crap about you behind your back. As far as what you told your niece and your brother-in-law, it was entirely appropriate. What did your sister expect you to say? That they were correct and what they said was fine? Her husband was not joking. I was just joking is the mating call of the a-hole when they get caught. Yeah, this is a total Darvo situation happening here. 17 is old enough to know when you're being absolutely rude as hell. I'll stay home. I was thinking this. A little kid just parrots stuff, but a 17-year-old has enough awareness to know trophy wife equals second marriage to a bimbo equals good to look at. Dumb but generally harmless woman. I think a lot of teens don't know what they want, so they see someone who marries up financially as a good idea. But I would think they would say I want to marry a rich guy, not to be a trophy wife. I definitely knew girls in high school who were unashamed to admit that their life goal was to become a trophy wife. Genuinely proud to aim for nothing other than marrying a guy with money for them to spend. I can't imagine being content with being a leech. Not stay home, and I would have been sorely tempted to say, "Oh no, honey, you have to be pretty for that." But that would not have been a kind or mature thing to say. That is pretty much what she did say. I don't think that's a realistic dream for you. If niece was in her 20s, I'd say it would be fine to use that as a retort. But since niece is only 17, it is likely just repeating what her parents say. That might be a bit too harsh. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my brother for taking my car? I, male 16, have a brother, male 28, who still doesn't have a car or job. He lives with me, my mom, and dad. I got my permit, took my driving test, and got my license this year. My brother actually knows how to drive and used to use my mom's car, but after getting into an accident with it, she took his privileges away. Ever since I got my license, he's been begging me to use my car and I always say no. The reason I don't want him to use it is because I don't want him to crash it. Also, it belongs to me, and I don't want anyone else using it. About 2 weeks ago, he asked me if he could take my car to go pick his friends up. I told him no. My brother has anger issues and can be scary at times, and he started yelling and swearing at me. I was scared, but still said no. Fast forward to the next morning, I saw my car keys missing. I immediately called my brother and asked him. He said yes, he took it and that he promises he'll bring it back to mint condition. I told him I don't care, and I just don't want anyone else using my car in general. After I hung up with him, I thought about calling my mom and dad, but I was furious. I let my anger and frustration get the best of me and called the cops. I told the cops what happened and gave them my license plate, plus where my brother was at, and his friend's address. They arrested him and brought him to the local police station, and my mom had to come pick him up. My mom was pissed and yelled at me when she got home and took my car keys for the time being. My dad was upset too when he got home. They said I was crazy for calling the cops on my own brother and I could have sent him to jail. I don't feel bad and I hope he learned his lesson. Am I the a-hole? Excellent. With his anger issues, he needs to know you'll call the cops on him. You likely just made all of your lives safer from his anger or stealing. You need to save money your parents or brother can't find or know about, so you can get out of there as soon as possible. Not stay home. Not stay home. And bravo, kid. You are a superior boundary setter. Sounds like you need to be that with your family. Well done. No, you wouldn't have sent your brother to jail. He would have done that all to himself by stealing. Surprise, surprise, that's a crime. You're not the a-hole, and shame on your parents for defending your brother's deplorable, entitled behavior. I'm sorry that your family sucks. They're enablers, aka really bad parents. The man is 28 for heaven's sake. And the mom stopped letting him use her car because the brother wrecked it. So Opie's supposed to just suck it up if that happens to his car? Why? Because it's not his car. That's why the brother wasn't charged. The OP has no legal standing to charge him with theft. He should have called the car's legal owner, their parents. Something he even admit to but didn't because he was angry. Not stay home. He threatened you and then when that didn't work, he stole from you. And you treated him like a thief who threatened you. You had to do what you had to do to protect yourself and establish your boundaries. How have things been since those 2 weeks? Do you feel threatened by him or your parents? The house felt tense for the first couple of days, but my parents seemed to be letting it go. I still don't have my keys back though, and I'm scared to ask them. My brother only speaks to me when he has to. Like I said, he's kind of scary, so I've been feeling on edge. I don't think he'll do anything though, but he definitely let me have it when he came back home with my mom that day. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for interrogating my wife after she hid her extra income? Me, 33, and my wife, 28, are married for 7 years. We have 2 kids, 4 female and 2 female. My wife is a stay-at-home mom after our first daughter, as there were lots of complications with her pregnancy. I make just enough money and my income goes to joint bank account and my wife makes the budget. Our house is my wife's grandma's. It was built in 80s. So we're redoing it little by little and money is always tight, but we make it work. After our second daughter, my wife doesn't have complications anymore. Even the problems from first pregnancy went away. So we're doing better financially for the past year and has started a college fund for the kids. My wife started a vegetable and fruits farm in our yard and roof and is extremely good at it. She made a lot of money out of it. And to the issue now, a few days ago, I woke up early one morning and saw my wife putting the little one in the stroller and leaving. I tried to call her, but she couldn't hear me. After she left, I opened a tab to see her location, but she left her phone at home and there was no way of contacting her. I saw a message from the bank about a deposit in her account, which I didn't know she had. She came back around 7, which is when I usually wake up. But what struck me wrong was she came in through the back door and told me she was in the backyard. I started asking her why she was lying, and that I saw her leaving the house at 4 in the morning. And what is that extra money she deposited in her account? She denied it, and we had some back and forth, and I was getting late for work, so I left. When I came back, she acted like nothing happened, and I started asking her a question about where she went again. She got angry and told me I'm an a-hole for interrogating her, and she doesn't have to tell me about her whereabouts. I was shocked, as this is the first time I've ever heard her talk like this. Or raised her voice. Even the kids were shocked. I didn't say anything afterwards, and she's still angry and hasn't talked to me. Am I the a-hole for questioning her? Now for the comments. I'm going with not the a-hole because if my partner suddenly started acting like that, I'd be suspicious too, and I'd ask for answers. However, I want to suggest something you might not have thought of. As a woman, I was taught to have a separate bank account for my partner, which held emergency funds. This account should be kept secret and the amount should not be disclosed to the partner. This is because historically, a lot of women have stayed in bad, even dangerous, situation because they were financially dependent on their partner. Women have died in situations like this, so many women are taught to have secret emergency funds. If this is the case for your wife, please try to understand that this isn't about you. It doesn't mean she thinks you'd hurt her or leave her, and it doesn't mean she plans on leaving you. But there's a sense of safety and security that comes with knowing you have an escape route, if, God forbid, it's ever needed. Again, I have no idea if that's the case with your wife, but it might be, and in that case, I wouldn't ask any more questions. Just let her have her safety net, even if you don't think she needs one. I was taught the same. My husband was not happy about it until I told him how much I had saved. This account is at least 20 years old now, and we've bought cars, a house, and done renovations from my money. I don't care about the account. I'd be more worried about her taking your kid out at 4 a.m. and not telling you where she is taking the kid. That is a red flag to me. We always discuss our children and where we take them. This is what is really bugging me. Where the hell are you taking a toddler at 4 a.m. when the other parent doesn't know? If my kids wouldn't sleep, I would at least leave a note. Sometimes I would lie about going to a fancy coffee because I wouldn't get their father one, but that is my treat for being up and letting him nap. Honestly, not stay home. You're asking legit questions, and she's lying to you. It's not like it's an unfounded accusations. You saw her do it. Yeah, but it looks like she doesn't want to answer. My doubt is, should I have left it at that instead of pushing? No, you don't do what she did to your spouse. If it was nothing, she would have answered. You might want to hire a PI and find out. The fact that she hasn't talked to you in days is even more troubling. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I would not care for my obese brother? When my little brother Teddy was born, his umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck. According to my mom, he wasn't breathing for at least 3 minutes. Since then, my parents often used that as an excuse for Teddy's behavior. My childhood became a living hell with Teddy. Give Teddy your candy, he died coming into this world. Let him play with your friends, he died coming to this world. Let him open your presents, Teddy almost didn't have a birthday. I had to put up with Teddy's tantrums, mistreatment, fits, and bad behavior. If I touched a single hair on his head, I got punished, while Teddy got away with whatever he did. It became so bad that when I was 15, I moved out the house to live with family members away from Teddy, and my contact with my parents and Teddy's limited. Currently, I'm 35 and Teddy's 26. When he was 18, he decided he wanted to be a competitive eater, which turned into just eating. And now Teddy weighs almost 600 pounds. Because of his weight, he can't hold a job and lives with our parents, who still cater to him and pay for everything. Since Teddy requires round-the-clock care, my parents hardly leave the house. They weren't present at my wedding, only see the grandkids if I bring them around, and all family events like dinners have to be held at their house because it's hard to move Teddy. A few days ago, Teddy suffered a bad fall that put him in the hospital. My husband and I at least came to see him. My parents complained that the hospital wasn't feeding him enough, didn't have a wheelchair big enough for him, and naturally they didn't want to hear anything about his weight. It would be easier to turn water into gold. To make long story short, my parents pulled my husband and I aside and asked large amounts of money for Teddy's care. They said that they didn't have money to keep caring for him, and were having to dip into their retirement funds. They even suggested that once Teddy's cleared to go home, he moved in with us because my husband and I are well off with a bigger house, and so we can get a break because we have to care for him all year round while you just visit. I said no. My husband told them hell no. We both work full-time, and our kids are enrolled in sports and dance. We made it clear that Teddy would not be moving in with us, nor we would be moving our schedule around to deal with him, or giving them the money even though we could afford it. But he is your brother. You almost didn't have a brother. We left the hospital. My mom later called me, berating me for abandoning the family and Teddy, and demanding money. I told her I would not care for Teddy under any circumstances. Even if something happened to her and my dad, I would not care for my brother. It is her problem, not mine. My mom cursed me out over the phone and hung up. I do feel a little bad because Teddy's my brother, But it made my life hell, and my parents refused to take any responsibility for his behavior. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He can't hold a job and lives with our parents who still cater to him and pay for everything. They enabled him to get to 600 pounds. He's not much longer for this world. These are based on his decisions, which we're not responsible for. They need serious family therapy to see how their behavior is leading to the death of their son. They can't just help him get close to death, then pawn the problem off on someone else. They aren't going to have Teddy around for long if he stays at 600 pounds. They are killing their own kid with food. The parents will most likely outlive Teddy. Plus, it's like every 600-plus pound live TV show ever. Teddy physically cannot maintain his weight with his little flying monkeys. This is totally on the parents. The OP will get blamed for his early death too. Not the a-hole. I feel bad for you and Teddy. You were both failed by your parents. Right? There's 9 years between the two. That means it was a 6-year-old that was so horrible their 15-year-old sibling had to move out. And that wasn't a wake-up call? That's what stuck out to me too. They created such a monster of a child in only 6 years that they ran off their 15-year-old. Absolute insanity. And yet, even with this recent interaction at the hospital, the mom still tried to use the fact that Teddy almost died at birth as a manipulation tool. I feel so bad for OP. And Teddy too. He never had a chance. Not the a-hole. What the heck is wrong with your parents? They're helping that umbilical cord finish the job. Next story. Am I the a-hole for having another child after giving my first up for adoption? When I was 17, I got pregnant with my first child. I was in a very unstable, toxic environment. Was to be a single mother. I had no family support. I was told to get an abortion by close members, but I didn't. I thought I could handle being a mom. I was wrong. I struggled hard with everything from work to childcare to bonding, and it felt like I was causing my baby to suffer along with me. I had PPD, the severe anger portion, and didn't know it. I was drowning and failing at every turn I took. So when my baby was 3 months, I decided to let her dad's aunt and uncle legally adopt her. They've never shut me out, but I was beyond guilty and disgusted with myself that I have minimal interaction with my baby. I felt she was better off without me. Fast forward 10 years. By some miracle, I have found the love of my life, and we're doing well. We've discussed my baby and the effects it had on me over the years. He's always wanted a kid, but I've been hesitant because I vividly remember failing so miserably. He's assured me everything will be fine. Still, it scares me, so I've stayed on birth control, and sometimes as extra precaution, we'll use rubbers. A couple of months ago, I missed my period. Didn't think much of it, but took a test anyway. I usually do I feel anything is off. Lo and behold, I'm pregnant. My husband is ecstatic while I'm freaking out. He tells me my circumstances are different, that I've grown as a person, so things would be okay if I had another child. When we told our families, his side was happy, but mine freaked out. They told me I was already a horrible mom. Why on earth would I have another kid to be horrible too? That I would do nothing but cause pain and eventually give this one up too. I feel terrible about having another kid because I'm terrified it'll be the same and I'll fold again. Plus, how am I gonna explain to this kid they have a sibling mommy couldn't take care of? I don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole for having this kid? Not the a-hole. Who you were as a single mom at 17 is not who you are at 27 with a partner. Don't let your family, who didn't support you at 17, drag you down. Being a parent is overwhelming, but you are different. That said, don't let your husband talk you into a kid you don't want. If you want a kid, now and with him, go for it. Not the a-hole, but your family, all of them saying anything, are. You're a teenager, having a child, alone with PPD. I was mid-20s, married with an awesome support system, and barely made it through because of PPD. My husband and his family got me through, along with therapy. You didn't fail as a mother, you didn't fail your first child. You did what you have to do to save your own life and your child's. You saved both of you. Not to cause a freak out, but ever hear those horrible news stories where mom drives her and kids off the bridge in a family minivan? PPD. While it's not always that serious, it easily can be. 1. Relax. Take a deep breath. Steady yourself and make a plan now. 2. Your family has got to go. They didn't support you then. They're not supporting you now. No contact, at minimum for the duration of pregnancy and a good chunk, if not all, of baby's first year. That will be the hardest for you. You do not need any outside negativity at this time, not one little bit. The time right now is for you to focus on you and your child only. 3. Treatment and therapy is necessary. You've already had PPD. Don't wait for it to happen again. Start now. Take it very seriously. It will help immensely. 4. Your husband and his family. Lean on them and lean on them hard. They're there for you, so use that to your advantage. You are not alone. You have them. Talk with your husband, let him know about the PPD then, how serious it can become, and let him know you're afraid and in need of help. Possibly set up something with his family with alternating weeks between people to assist when you become later term and for a while after the baby is born. PPD can last a long time, 3 to 24 months after the baby is born. Even if it's just lunch dates with someone, anything with help. All the positive support you can get, suck that up. 5. Your first child. How do I explain to this kid they have a sibling mommy couldn't take care of? Easily tell the truth, age appropriate of course. There is zero reason your first child should be kept a secret. You don't need to take out an advertisement or anything about it. But if asked when they're young, just say, Mommy was too young. I didn't know Daddy then and was unable to care for a baby by myself then. If they do not ask, do not tell them. Let them know they have a half-sibling. And let them know why. It could also be a great opening for a talk with a teen. Teenage pregnancy is so very hard to go through. Mommy was not able to. I learned a hard way to use protection always. 6. You got this. Edit 1. I want to I can't express just how humbly, and sincerely thank everyone for their advice. I'm in tears reading these responses because other than my husband, who is the sweetest, most supportive person I've ever met, I've never had anyone tell me it wasn't wrong to go to the adoption route. I will be turning to therapy to try to help with these feelings and doubts. I will also be cutting off my family. They've contributed to a lot of my issues in life, and I will not allow that energy around this new baby. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not calling out my son for treating my daughter badly? I have 2 kids, a son Ben, 44, and a daughter Emma, 42, female. Their father and I divorced when they were young. He wasn't a good husband, but he isn't a bad man. He is wealthy. He did bond with Emma, but he favored Ben, and it became overt as they grew up. Ben was easier than Emma and did well in school and sports. Emma, although smart, wasn't interested in school and was rebellious as a teenager. Their father spoiled Ben, and if I'm honest, he wasn't nice to Emma. If this upset her, she would cry, feeling unfairly treated. I felt bad, but I couldn't do anything about it, so I felt it better to pretend it wasn't happening and hope it got better. It didn't. He wanted nothing to do with her, although there wasn't a reason why. Emma struggled to cope with this, and I think expected me to stand up for her. But I hate confrontation, and her father never listens to me anyway. I preferred not to discuss it with Emma and focus on other things. But she said I didn't allow her to be upset and didn't validate her. I didn't want to potentially cause a bigger rift and cause Ben to side with his father. Ben, on the other hand, was lavished with anything he wanted. Money, cars. He was expected to be successful like his father. As adults, the relationship between Ben and Emma fizzled out, which was sad because I couldn't do anything about it. Despite being given a large amount of wealth and more opportunities than most, Ben hasn't become successful, and he's quite resentful about it. His father stopped giving him money a few years ago, and he partially blames me because I told his father that he had given him too much. Despite being an easy child, Ben has grown up to be rather difficult. He has a temper and is very sensitive about his lack of career success, so we aren't allowed to talk about it. Emma's a stay-at-home mom. She's a good mom and her children's father earns a lot of money. Her father was regretful, so he reconnected with her. They have a relationship now. It's quite superficial, but I think it healed the wound a bit for Emma, so she reached out to Ben. They got along well for a couple years, but Ben stopped speaking to Emma. Emma was upset, and think it's because Ben doesn't like their father's interest in her. Ben hasn't given her an explanation, but he told me a silly reason that doesn't make sense. I told Emma I think Ben has behaved very badly. She asked me if I told him that. I said no, and she shouted at me that I have never stuck up for her or protected her. And if I can't do it this one time, she doesn't want a relationship with me. That I enable this behavior at her expense, and she's sick and tired of it. The thing is, Emma has 3 kids, and Ben has 1 kid. Emma will still allow me to have a good relationship with her kids, but Ben has made it difficult for me to see his kid in the past when he's angry. So I'm afraid he will do that again and stop speaking to me. I also don't want to be forced to be in the middle of them, so I won't do it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the judgment. You're the a-hole, and so weak. I feel for Emma. Absolutely spineless. That was my first reaction reading this. How can you be so spineless? Opie, you're the a-hole. Those are your kids. You're supposed to protect them and support them. And all you did was let them both down. Shame on you. Because as long as Emma was the target of her father and brother's mistreatment, then Opie wasn't. What an absolute awful human being. Because I refuse to even call her a mother. You're the a-hole for being a total failure as a mother to your daughter. You allowed this behavior by not sticking up for her. So what if you hate confrontation? Does that give you a right to emotionally abandon your daughter and be a silent accomplice to her torment? You are terrible. And if I were her, I'd never speak to you again, since you just want to suck up to your son for the sake of being grandma. I hope Emma cuts you all out of her life. You've all failed her. Exactly this. You're the a-hole OP, and you have failed both of your children for your own comfort. Pretty soon, both of them will go no contact with you, and you won't have to worry about any of it. I felt bad but couldn't do anything about it, so I thought it'd be better to pretend nothing was happening. You failed your kids. You failed them by letting them be treated so wrongly. Parents like you why adult kids go no contact. Shame on you. Yes, that makes no sense. Even if she couldn't change the way the father was being, talking to her daughter, giving her more emotional support, etc., would have been useful. Instead, she just acted like nothing was happening. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying that someone old enough for social media is old enough to know Santa does not exist? The other day on Facebook, I made a post about how it's my first Christmas as grandma this year, and I'm excited to play Santa again as my son and his girlfriend live with me, so I'll be helping them assemble toys, wrap gifts, etc. They asked me to. My nephew is 12 years old and has a Facebook account, and had added me as a friend a while ago. He never posts, so I forgot we were even friends. A few hours later, I get a text from my sister saying I ruined Christmas, and why did I have to post about Santa? I was confused, and she said her son still believed in Santa until he read my post. She demanded I apologize to him and tell him I was joking. I told her no. This isn't the 5-year-old who accidentally overheard, and even then I don't know if I'd feel comfortable lying. He is almost a teenager, who honestly should have known by now. If he is old enough for a Facebook account, he is old enough to know Santa doesn't exist. This has caused a bit of controversy, and I do feel bad that I ruined magic for my nephew. Am I the a-hole? There is no way a 12-year-old these days still believes in Santa. Your sister is deluding herself about that. You didn't ruin anything. She's in denial that her baby is growing up. Not the a-hole. Homeschooled, maybe? It's not hard at all to believe a kid with an overprotective mother wouldn't know about Santa. My kids are 8 and 10, and are homeschooled and know Santa's not real. I have friends with school children who believe at 12. These are parents who let them watch what I frankly feel is inappropriate things, and they still believed. However, if your child is on social media, and shouldn't be till 13, then you need to be prepared for adult things. Not the a-hole OP. Not the a-hole, and yes, if she's still protecting his belief that Santa's real, he's clearly not mature enough to have an online social media profile. No. Mom is clearly not mature enough, being angry that her 12-year-old son found out about Santa. It's not the kid's fault that he has a dumb, overprotective mother. It's nice when preteens maintain some innocence, but if he is on the internet and social media, then how have they kept it from him for so long? I feel like they've used Santa to keep him in line and as a discipline tactic. Also, I think Santa is toxic AF, and I'm still not sure my young children are going to be brought up on him. I know what you mean about toxic. We took care to never refer to naughty/nice, hold presents hostage, or base gifts on behavior. We also refuted some of the weird songs about him watching you all the time to determine if you are good or bad, because that's just plain weird. I think you can keep the tradition and the fun without weaponizing it. Am I the a-hole for not acknowledging I have a sister? 9 years ago, we found out that my 28 female mother had a 5-year affair with someone she met from work. My parents divorced, and she went on to get remarried to the man, Greg. My mother moved her husband and his daughter, Kylie, 26 female, from his previous marriage into our house, and I lived with them before I left for college. I remained in minimal contact with them until Kylie joined my company and started working in my department. Nobody was aware of our relation since we had different last names, and I had told Kylie not to disclose anything about this. Last Friday, while clocking into work with a few of my coworkers, Kylie came up to me to ask if I could come home for a family dinner. By lunch, our entire department was gossiping about it, and Kylie would confirm their suspicions. Fed up, I told the department that I do not have a sister. Things died down at work, and I agreed to make it to dinner considering it was my mother's birthday. At dinner, I was bombarded with questions about why I refused to acknowledge my sister at work and refused to even call her my sister. Greg told me I was a petty boy for embarrassing Kylie at work and that he has had enough of me mistreating his daughter. He told my mother that my misbehavior was a result of my parents cuddling. He demanded that I address him as my father and Kylie as my sister and to tell everyone at work that too. At that point, I had enough of his relentless chastising, so I told him that all he signed was a marriage certificate and not adoption papers, so I am not his daughter, therefore will not be addressing him as my father. I brought up the fact that I know my dad had created an account for my college fund and paid child support each month, but they used the funds to purchase a new car and to pay off credit card debt. Back then, they told me that I would have to get a part-time job to help with paying off college, because money was tight since they just got a new car. I always found it weird that Kylie never had to get a job to go to college and could afford to stay in a nice apartment during. Kylie was crying by the end of the argument. My mother broke down and yelled at me to stop, while Greg called me an ungrateful witch. I told them that if they only have the capacity to acknowledge and care for one daughter, then do not expect me to be in Kylie's life as her big sister, and left the house. I guess Kylie posted about it in social media because friends and family called me up. Some told me I was being harsh and unfair to Greg and my mother who took care of me, as well as Kylie who had nothing to do with this, while some understood where I was coming from. So, am I the a-hole for doing this? Now for the top comments. They stole your money. Sue the hell out of your cheating mother. To be honest, I'd stop calling her mother. Cheaters don't deserve any better. Yeah, if she was 19 and received money from her father that the mother and stepfather stole, then that's theft. Why did the dad not just give it directly to the daughter though? Opie might have been living with her mom during that time. I think some places require you to pay child support not until the child is 18, but independent. I guess Kylie posted about it on social media. This is where I have a problem with Kylie. I was a bit miffed that she alluded towards a relationship at work when you had previously told her not to, but now she has turned a private argument into a sympathy farming session. I don't like how she's playing this. Not today, Hull. You seem to have handled yourself really well with Greg. Blended families are complicated. It doesn't help that step-parents sometimes want to overstep. Yeah, I wonder why as well. Like, she asked Opie in front of all colleagues when clearly nobody knew about the relationship, and then informed the parents about this and then again on internet. Feels to me like she's manipulating to get sympathy. But the worst is the mom. Clearly sacrificed her own daughter over husband and stepdaughter. She is the a-hole. Thank you for the overwhelming response. I'm still in the middle of reading all your responses, but there seem to be parts that are confusing, and I couldn't elaborate due to the character limit. So I thought I'd clear things up here. Where I'm from, a lot of people live with their parents when they're in college, but I lived with them for a couple of months before college. Child support is mandated until 18, but my dad wanted to make sure I'm well taken care of, so he continued until I was independent at 21. My dad left me 2/3 of my tuition fee, and it was decided that my mother would pay the other 1/3. Unfortunately, child support in my country isn't heavily regulated, so people could get away with not paying, and people can also get away with misusing the funds. In my case, my dad deposited the money in a joint bank account that had both my mother's and my name on it. She can move funds in and out of that account without needing my permission. Conversely, I could too if I knew about it. And where I'm from, it's really common for parents to have joint accounts with their children, so it makes sense why she got away with that. My dad moved out of state and eventually out of the country, but we're still in close contact with one another. I didn't tell him about the job or having to pay for college myself because I didn't want him to worry. I also didn't find out about the college fund until finding the bank book and statements in the safe right before moving out. At that point, I just decided to cut contact and get out of there because there was already no point in arguing. About Kylie, my boss and HR know that Kylie is my stepsister, but that information is kept private and confidential. Our workplace has the tendency to gossip, and Kylie refers to me as her sister around family and friends. I ask if we can maintain our relationship at work strictly professional, which means not referring to me as her sister because I didn't want our co-workers to think that she got into our company because of our relations. She agreed. As for her social media post, she posted a solemn picture on Instagram and captioned, "Tonight is the most terrible night of her life because her family was breaking apart." When prompted in the comments, she elaborated on how I blew up at them and said I would be cutting ties. While I understand that Kylie is innocent and that I shouldn't extend my resentment from my mother and Greg towards her, so I treat her like a co-worker, but I can't bring myself to see her as my family or a friend, and I'm finding it's even harder to do so after her social media post. Sorry for a super long comment, and I hope this clears a few things up. If there's anything else that's confusing, I would be glad to elaborate. Kylie isn't so innocent. I'm willing to bet that she didn't include why you blew up at them or why you wanted to cut ties. She's old enough to know what her father and mother did. She's making you look bad in order to get sympathy and attention. You did nothing wrong, but they did, including Kylie. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I ask my ex to stop having our daughter call his new girlfriend Mom? So my ex-husband and I got a divorce several years ago. I got remarried in January 2021, and he started dating someone that same month. My ex-husband knocked up his fairly new girlfriend, and our daughter 8 is starting to show resentment towards them. When I got remarried, my daughter started calling my husband Daddy. It was completely unprompted. I asked her about it, and she said that she felt like he was her daddy, and that's what she wanted to do. My ex-husband freaked the hell out and ended up screaming at her. She told me about it happening when I picked her up and she was crying. I talked to my ex and he apologized to me, but never to her. I now have my daughter in therapy because of multiple things he has been saying to her, which the therapist told me not to inform him that she's going. Now, I really worry about my daughter's mental health. My daughter told me today that her father has been telling her to call his new girlfriend Mom, since she's going to be giving birth to a new sibling. My daughter is already upset about the new baby and doesn't want anything to do with it. I have no idea what to do. My husband has been in my daughter's life for multiple years, and no one told her to call him Daddy. This new girlfriend has only known my daughter for a few months, and her father is pushing her to call his girlfriend Mom. Would I be the a-hole if I ask my ex to stop, or if I talked with a girlfriend? Note, just for clarification, I would have no issue with my daughter calling her father's new wife Mom if that was something my daughter felt was right. But her father is the one insisting, and this is a woman my daughter has only seen a total of 10 times. I personally call my own stepdad and stepmom Dad and Mom. My daughter doesn't not like the new girlfriend, but she's admitted that she doesn't feel comfortable with her as well. Not today, Hall, but talk to the therapist about how to handle this. The way her father treats her is horrible. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. According to OP, the therapist doesn't even want OP to inform Dad that daughter is in therapy. Yeah, I'm a bit suspicious of that statement. And if it is true, I'd suggest OP find a new therapist. Any therapist who encourages dishonesty over finding healthier ways to communicate is not very good. Sorry, I wasn't very clear. The therapist doesn't want her father to know just yet, due to the nature of the therapy and that he's been emotionally/mentally abusive. He will be brought into the sessions at some point, but the therapist wants to wait until she knows it's safe for my daughter. Not day Hall. Explain to your daughter she can call the parental figures in her life what she wants, and feel no guilt. He doesn't want your daughter calling her stepdad Daddy, but wants his daughter to call her stepmother Mommy? No, ma'am. He's trying to have the best of both worlds. Update. Holy cow, I didn't expect to get so many responses, and I have been reading through as many as I can. I see a lot of people mentioning lawyers. I have a lawyer, and he is aware of everything. He said that currently there is nothing I can do because there hasn't been physical harm, but we are noting everything. He also said when there's enough evidence from the therapist, we can petition the court for supervised visitation until he receives therapy/anger management and is cleared to see her on his own, but it would be virtually impossible to take away all of his rights to her without evidence of physical mistreatment. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my former stepmother and stepsister to my wedding? My parents divorced when I was 3. Dad remarried when I was 9, and he died when I was 19. After his death, his wife's stepdaughter and I didn't really keep in touch with each other. That was more my choice than theirs. I was never particularly close to them, and had spent more time with my mom than my dad while they were married, because of the distance he lived from us. And when he was gone, I didn't see a point in staying in touch. My grandparents continued to keep in touch with them though, and even told them when I got engaged, and then when I sent invites out last week. After, they got upset about not being invited, both them, and my grandparents started giving me crap for it. My grandparents gave my former stepsister my number and she gave it to her mom. I heard everything, from they're still family to it's a slap in the face when people ask why they aren't there. After 7 years of no contact, I wasn't expecting this. My grandparents expressed real disappointment in me though, which is why I came here. With everyone pissed at me and thinking of me as the a-hole, I had to ask. So tell me, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Relationships are two-way streets, with both sides needing to make an effort. If either side wants to participate in the fun events like weddings, graduation parties, and baby showers, then they need to put in the work of weekly/monthly communication to have that expectation. This. I have an older stepbrother who I have had 3 conversations within 16 years. I still consider him family, but just distant. If you want to be close, got to meet at least part way. Not the a-hole. It's your wedding. You and your partner choose the guests based on their significance in your lives. Not an a-hole. Why is your grandma creating drama for you when you're getting ready to get married? That's just rotten of her. If you don't consider the stepmother and stepsister to be family because you never developed a bond with them and didn't see them much while your dad was alive, your feelings and reactions are totally understandable. Is your grandma bored, lonely, and miserable without much to do besides creating drama where she can find it? Why on earth is she handing out your number to people without asking you first? Sorry to tell you this, OP, but your grandma is the huge a-hole in this situation. I figure this must be your dad's mom, so she considers your stepmom to be her daughter-in-law and thus her family. Still no reason to try and force that BS onto you. Sorry you're dealing with that. It's not just my grandma, but both my grandparents on my dad's side. Tell them your ex-stepmother and stepsister are not your family. You had little to do with them when your dad was alive, and you've had no relationship with them since he died. Tell them to stop talking about you to them, that they're only creating unnecessary drama by doing so, and if they don't, you'll have to limit contact with them. Tell them you're blocking your ex-stepmother and stepsister, and you will not discuss it further. Your ex-stepmother and stepsister are literally strangers to you. They aren't even distant extended family who you see a few times a year. You don't have to spend money on entertaining them for appearances. People, other than your grandparents, will think nothing of them not being there, as they haven't been part of your life for over 7 years. Shut your grandparents down, and then refuse to discuss it further, and don't waste mental energy thinking about it either. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for expecting my ex to treat all his kids the same? My ex-husband Paul and I have 3 kids together. Since splitting, we have both found new partners and he has had another child, Ollie, with his new partner, Becky. My children spend every other weekend at their dad's. My daughter is about to turn 13 shortly, and it falls in Paul's weekend. Ollie and my daughter have an 11-year age gap, and Ollie was born the day after my daughter's birthday. We hoped that as the 2 children were born on different days, that there would be no problems. The whole family made running jokes through Becky's pregnancy about her crossing her legs tightly for my daughter's birthday, as her due date was so close. Paul and Becky have decided to have a birthday party for Ollie on my daughter's birthday, and also celebrate hers on the same day. My daughter was very unhappy that she will turn 13 and has to go to a toddler's party, and has to stay home that weekend and have a sleepover with their friends instead. I have contacted Paul to see if this is okay, and he had a go at me for messing with the plans. Am I the a-hole for expecting him to accept his 13-year-old daughter wants her birthday to be about her? Ollie is so young he doesn't know the date, so surely his party can be any other day? Thanks for reading. Not an a-hole. How can he possibly think she wants to share a birthday with a toddler at the brink of her teens? Her birthday's for her, so I don't blame her or you. One birthday celebrated on Saturday and one celebrated on Sunday. Easy peasy. Not day hall. Especially if she wants a sleepover as opposed to a kid's party. She could have had a cake and sleepover party with her friends, and family could wish her happy birthday the next day at Ollie's party. Not day hall. For X, it's convenient. Ollie probably won't remember. But your 13-year-old will. X made these plans without considering 13-year-old feelings about it. She wants to sleep over. How does that ruin his plans? If 13-year-old doesn't want to go, she shouldn't have to. It's her birthday, not X's. It does not inconvenience him in any way. You're the one who will be watching over the sleepover. If X wanted to be a part of the celebrations, he should have asked 13-year-old what she wanted. I highly doubt that the X planned any of this. I bet the stepmom planned a birthday party for her child on her stepdaughter's birthday. She can't see her obvious favoritism, so she believes having a cake and presents for the 13-year-old on the same day is equal acknowledgement. She wants a sleepover. How does that ruin his plans? He's not worried about his plans being ruined. He's worried if his family and friends will judge him for celebrating his 2-year-old's birthday on the older child's birthday. If she's there and gets a token cake and presents, it's all good. If she chooses to stay with mom, then everyone knows she's unhappy with the favoritism. Isn't it Jane's birthday? Where is she? That above is what he wants to avoid.